All right, so we're recording. This is Memphis Law's incoming 1L video. My name is Paul Garretson. For you incoming 1Ls, you know who I am. I work with you quite often. I've got with me today three pretty great students that I have a lot of love and appreciation for, and I'm very thankful to be one of their peers. And so they're here with us today. We've got Malik, Evan, and Emma. They're going to talk to you all about their experiences, mainly with online learning. That's been a big question for a lot of you 1Ls. And so we want to make sure that we show you different ways in which you can engage in online learning, different aspects and opinions regarding online learning. I know you talked to me some about it, and as well as Rachel in the admissions office, but we really want to showcase that there are plenty of opinions out there and things that you can do to better your online learning experience. And so it is our hope in admissions that this video helps you with that. Let me go ahead and introduce these three real quick. We'll start with Malik. Malik, on this video, he is a 3L University of Memphis. He was raised in Memphis, Tennessee, and attended White Station High School. Upon graduation, he went to Knoxville, Tennessee, to obtain a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Tennessee. Malik's involved with the Memphis Law Review. He's on Honor Council. He's one of our student ambassadors in the admissions office. He's a member of the Black Law Students Association, Street Law, and Barbary. So he's relatively busy, it looks like, just by reading that bio. In addition to on-campus activities, Malik also works part-time as a law clerk for Archibald and Hammond PC. And in his spare time, Malik enjoys golfing, watching movies, listening to music, and spending time with his family and friends. So really, Malik's just a normal dude doing normal things. We appreciate Malik so very much. I'm going to introduce Evan real quick. For Evan, he taught elementary school 4 years before coming to law school, so he's a more non-traditional law student for those of you incoming 1Ls. He went to Wabash. Is that correct, Evan? Or is it Wabash? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Wabash.
Okay, college in Indiana for undergrad. He's the Chief Justice of our Honor Council. He is the notes editor on Law Review, and he is a Diversity Office graduate assistant. And then we've got Emma. Emma is a rising 2L, and she graduated from Mississippi State University, and her undergrad was in English. She worked for several years as a journalist prior to coming to law school. She's involved in street law as well as the Association for Women Attorneys here on the law school. She has just completed an externship in the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, working in Judge Donald's chambers. Her close plans for law school are to be determined, but she is interested in seeking work in a postgraduate judicial clerkship and eventually working in education law. So thank you three for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with our first bit of questions. So Malik, I'll start with you, and then we're going to go to Evan, and then we'll go to Emma. So Malik, when you found out that we'd be transitioning to online learning, so going back to last semester, we're sitting in classes, it's middle of the week, we get that email from Dean Shafson, we're going home, we're going to be transitioning. What were your initial thoughts about that? And Evan and Emma be thinking about this as well. What were your initial thoughts, and how do you feel now, thinking about what you thought back then, how do you feel now as we approach a new semester in which some of online learning is going to be continued?
I was absolutely terrified. So in undergrad, we obviously had the option to take some online courses. I made the choice to never take an online class because I know I need that in-person instruction. I need those interactions with my peers. I need interactions with my teachers so that I can learn. Sometimes it'll just be a quick remark by a classmate in class that makes me remember a rule or a law or something, and I really need those. And the thought of online initially kind of gave me the impression that would all be taken away. Now, looking forward to this upcoming semester where we will have some more online classes, I realize that it's not as different as I thought it would be. Yes, I would still rather be in person learning, kind of separating my school life and my personal life. But professors they're going to cold call, so they still call on you. And then they still kind of just teach the class online in a way that you can still get those same interactions.
All right, thank you so much. Evan?
Yeah, so my initial thought was just a lot of confusion, a little terrified, mostly just really not sure what things were going to look like. I'm a very extroverted social person, so I wasn't really excited about not getting to see folks, but I also that gets in the way of me learning sometimes because I just want to talk to people all day. So in some senses, it was good. My biggest concern as a parent and a wife that works 50 hours a week in the medical field was we weren't sure if we were going to be able to stick around Memphis. And so once they closed daycares and things like that, then we actually had to leave, or me and the kids had to leave town and go stay with my in-laws who are retired out of state to finish the semester. And that was accommodating. They're in a little bit of a rural part of Wisconsin, so we were far away. It was a big challenge, but it allowed me to have help with the kids. So that was huge. I know that's not an option for everybody, but we were really thankful I was really blessed to have that option and to get to, use that benefit. But I think sort of like Malik said, the difficulties that I was afraid of definitely manifested themselves as far as interactions and just for me, my attention span, I've never really felt like I had trouble paying attention in class for the most part in person, but online it required me to stay more diligent as far as really putting in the effort to stay engaged and finding little ways to do that, whatever that might be, that worked for me. And so I actually just finished sales online completely. Obviously last semester it was kind of half and half, and doing sales this summer online was completely online. Professor Smith does a great job of just very thoughtful and thinks through a lot of things to help people with that. And that actually went really well. We only had one synchronous class throughout the week, and then the rest was all recorded. So for me, that was helpful because I didn't always have the ability to have the kids being watched or whatever. And so for about 3 weeks at the beginning of the summer, I was having to try to do class and watch them during the day. And so it allowed me to kind of watch them during the day, maybe do a little bit of class, but then once they were at bed at night or during nap time, I could kind of get more work done and watch class. So that was helpful just by the way that he set that up and gave me the flexibility. I really like that flexibility, not flexibility that you get during in-person classes. But it did require me to be a little bit more, diligent to make sure I actually did it, because sometimes things could get piled up and I might have to do a couple lectures in the same day because, I let things pile up or something. But
thank you so much. Emma?
So I think I probably felt the same way as both Malik and Evan. I really didn't know what to expect when we switched to online because I've never had an online class, and just, I don't know, I knew I would miss coming to the building every day because I like that routine of sort of coming to school and then coming home and like turning my school brain off for the night. So it was good. I think it went pretty well overall, the online half of the semester. It was definitely harder to pay attention. Definitely had to work a little harder to stay engaged. And I think also when it came to studying for finals and studying just generally, just doing extra work outside of just the class time, that was kind of hard for me to stay motivated. And I think part of that was just like being at home and not having those clear boundaries. So overall, I mean, once I got used to it, it was fine, but it was definitely harder than being in class, and it was definitely different. You have to work a little harder, I think, to stay engaged, or at least I did. So but not bad. It was fine.
I think you all touched on something, which is that it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be, but it required a lot more diligence and really mentally knowing that you had to put in more work. Because when you're at school, it's second nature. I mean, you're there. You are paying attention in class. You can't get away with not paying attention in class. I mean, you're taking the notes. You're engaging in those conversations. But you're sitting at home, like for instance, myself, I can be sitting here, I'm studying, but I could also turn on the TV behind me, just as easily. And that diligence that you all mentioned and the mentality of I've got to be engaged and I've got to force myself to be engaged because it's not something that's just going to come naturally maybe, I think is really important. And I think we're going to maybe start touching more on that now as we start moving through some of these other questions, because as we know for these 1Ls, It's looking like it's going to be kind of they're in person for a week and then out of school for a week. And so there's going to be this back and forth switchback between what it's like to be in school, what it's like to be out of school. And so Malik, again, we'll start with you and then we'll go Evan and Emma. So the question would be, what method, and we can combine this, what method do you prefer for taking notes when you're in person versus when you're online? And you can tag on to that, when you're preparing for class in person versus when you're preparing for class online. Does that look differently? Is it the same? Are there just minor variations? What is it that you had to do in order to be successful in both areas? And I'll mention real quick before you get going, Malik, one of the reasons I have you three on here is because I know you all three of you to be very successful law students. You're putting in the work, and that's one of the things we want to showcase is that if you put in the work and you're willing to put in that time, you can be successful. I mean, you all are doing great things. And so just wanted to highlight that real quick again. But Malik, if you could get us going with that, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so I tried to do the same thing. I'm a really big routine person. So like I kind of do a work schedule, if you will, of a 7 to 5 type thing where I'm taking notes during this hour, reading during this hour, and then classes during the rest of the hours or however that looks for that particular day. So for each class, I generally highlight in different colors. That's kind of what I do. Just the whatever it is I want to highlight, the summary, the proceeding, the rule. I just highlight in different colors, and then I'll take notes of what I read on my computer. And then in class, I also take notes on my computer and just separated kind of by in-class notes. So I just tried to keep that the same because I didn't want it to be to take it easier, because it's not easier just because it's online. And I also wanted to be prepared for cold calling. So, because some professors will still call on you even if it is virtual. So you just need to be prepared at all times. So I kept it the same so that I could put my best foot forward in every class.
Evan?
Yeah, I would say that generally the biggest change immediately that I thought of was with the recorded classes. I really like to, like if I'm watching lecture and I'm taking notes, which I do typically on my computer, depends on the professor. Professor Brazier, I feel like a lot of times I end up kind of doing both, just because of the nature of what Professor Brazier does, a lot of diagramming and different stuff. But generally I take notes on my computer, and I started when things went online trying to take notes on my computer and watch lecture, especially if there was some kind of slideshow, and kind of do a split screen sort of thing. I really didn't like that. And so what I've started trying to do is I do have an iPad. My wife has a work computer I sometimes can use, but honestly, I use my phone a decent amount, and I'll do the lecture on my phone and let it run. Sometimes it's kind of small as far as like being able to see stuff, but I prefer that to have those two separate. If I had a bigger screen or something, or, another monitor or something, maybe that would be easier too. But that, as far as with sales this summer, that was really helpful to me. But again, it depends, because we weren't getting cold called for that. So reading is really, we actually Professor Smith didn't assign a textbook, so we didn't read a case book. We really just did the UCC and the UCC supplement. And so I was really just reading the code most of the time as far as reading goes. And so it was kind of marking that up as far as underlining and reading comments and stuff. But I wasn't having to take too many reading notes because I was just kind of doing some of the diagramming that Smith does. I had a binder with where I did some of what Professor Smith calls parsing of the code to really break it down. But other than that, it was really, the big thing for me was that being able to have separate devices for watching lecture and then another device to actually take notes during the lecture. And with his being recorded, it was nice to be able to pause and get down everything I think I needed, or rewind or whatever, so I could get more of what he had said or something like that, which was really great. Which, if you're doing, I know Professor Allen did her family law different this summer, and she cold calls, and so that would be a much different setup. So a lot of it's going to depend on the professor, and I know some of them will definitely kind of communicate that ahead of time. So
thank you. Emma?
Yeah, so before we went to remote, my general approach was I would type all my notes on my laptop during class, and before class I would type up my case briefs and have those like ready to go in class in front of me. And then reading in the case books, I would highlight, and I've marked up my margins a lot. They're like pen, scribbles and notes all over them. So I'm a big like writing in the book person. So that didn't really change when we went to online. I tried to I pretty much did the same thing. But I did find that taking notes during class was challenging because I just have my little laptop and I'm trying to watch, especially like with the Zoom lectures and like the live classes. And I know like in property, there was a lot of diagram, Professor Keel would draw things on his screen. And so I was trying to look at that and listen and take my notes. So I would split my screen, and that was fine, and it worked fine for the remainder of the spring semester. But going into the fall, I'm definitely going to try to have 2 screens so that I can watch my, have class on one screen and then be typing on my laptop, because it was just very difficult for me to pay attention doing that. So I guess I would recommend trying to figure out a way to have 2 screens if possible. I know that's not possible for everyone, but that was something that I think will help me in the fall.
That's touching on that, one of the things that I've advised 1Ls already is that if they're, because as always, everybody's looking at, what can I do to be best prepared for law school? And for all of us, it might have been, what books could I read before I go to law school? But I've advised a lot of them, if you can save up a little bit of money and get a nice little, even if it's just like a 22-inch, 24-inch desktop monitor, screen that you could hook up to your laptop, because that's what I've done in my home office. I have a monitor in front of me, and then I've got my laptop, and so I've got all this space. So I have like a real workspace, and I find that to be extremely helpful, because my biggest concern coming in, and I voiced this to the 1Ls, was exactly you all mentioned, is I'm now, it's not maybe exactly what y'all mentioned, but you have everything on your laptop screen, and in class, that's fine, because you see your professor right in front of you. You don't have to be watching them and watching what they're, because you've got your notes in front of you, but splitting that on your laptop can be hard. You've got 13 inches of a screen. And so I would definitely advise that as well. I think it's beneficial, even if you just had a tablet, or like Evan, like you suggested. And I found myself in situations where I was having to use my phone as well, especially if my wife and I were having to, or my fiance then, if we were having to travel or something during the week, which I guess it's kind of a pro to online learning. Wouldn't suggest going anywhere, but we did have to go see family a couple times. And so if I didn't have all my setup, then having the phone with me was a pretty great thing. So I guess that'll lead me into this next question. Again, Malik, we'll start with you. How important is your work from home setup, if you have one, or if maybe you continue to go to a place? Malik, I don't know, it looks like you're in an office right now working, but how important is that work from home setup, or just the environment that you create for yourself at home? I know for myself, it was very important to be able to create a space in which I was comfortable, in which I felt like it's time to get down to business as best as possible. So if you guys can all elaborate on that and touch on your work from home setup, what you had to do, what are some things maybe you're looking to do as you go into the fall semester, that would be great. So Malik, we'll start with you, and then we'll go through like we normally do.
Yeah, so this past spring, I only experienced half. So what I did then, I'm not gonna do this upcoming semester. But then I have a desk in my room where I sleep, but my room is small and it feels like I'm caged in. And I also, like you said, with the TV, I just have to feel like I'm separating professional business and school from my personal life. So I oftentimes just found myself studying in the living room. I had my girlfriend's computer, so I had 2 different computers, just a living room setup basically. This upcoming semester, I'm hoping, and this is with social distancing and everything in play, that I can have some sort of setup at the law school on the 4th floor, if we're allowed to study there, and kind of just do the same thing there. And that way I can still get up early in the morning and commute to school, because it's the whole process for me is just, it helps throughout the day. So I'm hoping I can just get up in the morning, go to school, do what I need to do, go to work, do what I need to do, and then return home. So I would, if you're a person who needs to separate your personal life and school, if the school is open, I would suggest trying to find somewhere, obviously away from everyone, that you can set up at school and get everything done. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to do that living room setup again. So that's my plan, and I hope it works out.
Great, thank you. Evan?
Yeah, so mine was a little strange again because I was at my in-laws ended up being there for 8 weeks, which was really strange, but they were gracious they've got a kind of home office set up in their laundry room, which sounds weird, but it's a nice laundry room, so it's not really that big of a deal, but we had a lot of jokes about it, but that worked out really great because then that was just kind of my space, and they kind of let me have that, which was really nice of them, and that helped out a lot. As far as back at my own house now, my wife and I's bedroom's pretty big, so one half of it we kind of made an office anyway. Prior to all of this, I really had tried to make that part of a home office when I do need to do work at home and different things, and not be kind of all over the house, but it never really worked out that way. We don't have great internet down there. That's why I'm not down there now, but I've kind of fashioned it now to where there's decent enough internet if I need to during class. I watch sales down there, or even the synchronous classes down there. And then, but as far as reading and everything else, I've kind of set up down there, and we've got we made the desk basically, and then decent chair or whatever, but it's kind of away from the rest of the house. So even when the kids are here, and everybody's home or whatever, I can kind of go down there and shut the door and have that space. But it's taken me really getting used to it and really kind of making myself go down there, because I am such an extrovert that I want to be around everybody too and try to get work done. So it's kind of made me force myself to separate that space. But I'll say, kind of like what Malik was saying with the routine and stuff, I'll have to say that as much as I miss being around people and being at the law school, I don't miss the commute. I've got about 15 to 20 minute drive, which I don't miss because it adds up to being 45 minutes to an hour out of the day that I don't get to get work done or have to leave, And so that's been really nice for me because I feel like I've gotten extra, and even the simple 2-minute walk to class from wherever I'm at in the law school, being able to log on to class 2 minutes or, right before time to get in there has been helpful. So that might not be directly pertinent to the question, but.
No, but that's definitely helpful. Do you have any particular advice for that transition as a parent? Because you obviously had to make, and obviously, I mean, you like you mentioned, you guys you went to Wisconsin, and that was really helpful. But do you have any maybe more generalized advice for parents coming into law school and how to establish that work from home setup even when you have kids? And I know that for a lot of our parents in law school, this was a challenge at times, and I've had conversations with plenty of them about just what different things they had to do. And I've seen you and how you interact with your kids. I know you love them a lot, and you loved when we played basketball and stuff, and seeing that. So, what are some things that you had to do to be able to focus in, not only as a student but also as a dad? And so, what can you touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, the biggest thing is knowing that knowing that there's other people trying to do the same thing, and really that I've got it pretty good in the grand scheme. And my kids are 4, almost 5, and my daughter just turned 2, so they're really young. And when I'm here, it's just me and we're trying to get work done. I just have to, resolve that I'm probably not going to get as much done as I think I'm going to, or that I would like to get done, and really plan it around times that they're going to be napping or once they go to bed, and just knowing that, figuring out the things that I maybe don't require quite as much mental energy while they're awake, and to do some of that stuff, and then save sort of the more more taxing stuff to when I've got a little bit more help. They're actually at daycare right now, so that was incredibly helpful for me. It's not as extended of a time, and they have to wear masks and all that stuff, but as weird as it is kind of letting them go and I'm here at the house, but I just kind of have taken this as this is me at work, even though I'm at the house. And really I drop them off around 7:30 and then pick them up at 3. So from that time, that's the amount of time I get work done. And then if I need to do some stuff after that, just But I think, but to really directly answer the question, just knowing even all the way up to Dean Shafson, she's had kids come in the middle of a meeting or class, or I had class with her last semester, and it was actually a hybrid class to start the semester because she was trying to, but she had kids and dogs barking and stuff, and she said, we're all going to have to deal with that. So I think that relieves a lot of the pressure of like, oh no, especially with class as far as that goes, like the embarrassment of like, a kid doing something that kids are going to do because they're kids, and just kind of freeing yourself from that responsibility of like, that's just going to be the nature of it for everybody. So
thank you. That's awesome. That's really helpful. Emma?
So I have a desk and like a little home office set up at home in our guest bedroom. And so that was where I did all of my classes and all my schoolwork in the spring. And then that's where I worked this summer during my externship every day. And for me, I really avoided buying like a new office chair for a while because I was like, it's kind of expensive. And I was like, I just don't feel like buying it. And I finally caved and got like it wasn't super nice, but it's like an office chair rather than like my kitchen chair that I was trying to use. And that made a big difference. So I would definitely recommend like being comfortable. It's worth it to be comfortable where you're going to sit all day and work. Otherwise it's going to be hard to be productive, or at least for me it was. So definitely like make it a space that you can sit in all day. Good. I like to have, mine's by a window. I like the natural light. So all of those things are good. I think that probably in the fall, I'm going to spend more time at the law school if possible, simply because I think it's easier for me to get work done there. And that kind of depends too. Like, I don't know, if you have roommates or if you're married. My husband has been home because he's a teacher. And so for me, it was very tempting to just like walk out of the guest bedroom and start chatting. And then, before you know it, it's been like an hour and I haven't done anything. So it kind of depends, if he's going to be here. I don't know what the fall will look like, but definitely be aware of the distractions and try to minimize those. Be able to shut yourself off and focus. So I think it's different for everybody really, but a chair for sure is a good buy.
Awesome. Something you guys just touched on is that, and I mean, Evan, you just touched on it specifically with, recognizing that there's going to be times in which you're going to have to save the more taxing stuff that you've got to do with school. That's going to require more of your mental capacity for times in which when you're at home, you could actually put the time into it. And then when you have your children around, or, Emma, you just mentioned your husband, and I feel the same way when my wife is home. I want to spend time with my wife, and I want to, engage with her and have conversation and dinner and all these other things. But really you've got to think about how to balance that life. And so days that she has off and I was working this summer, I would just have to be really good about shutting my door and like, I've got to focus in because I've got work to do. I'm on the clock. And I think, Malik, you mentioned it, like treating it like a job still. Even though you went home, and I remember when we were in school, I see you in the school from like 7 to 5 every day, and you're there anytime between those hours. But you can go home and still make it work from home 7 to 5. You can do that, and it's very possible. So I appreciate how you've got different perspectives on it, but ultimately it's the same goal, and that is being as productive as you can be and learning what works for you. We're getting close to wrapping up. There's a couple more things I want to touch on, and this one being, how did you find remote learning to impact your mental health? I know for certain individuals, Evan, you mentioned it quite a bit. You bring very extroverted, and you want to be around other people. Myself, I feel the same way. I want to engage and talk with others because that's how I feel like I learn best, is just by being around my friends and having those conversations. When you're at home, it's different. So how did this affect your mental health? Were there things you had to find that you had to start doing? And I don't know what that might be for you. For me, it was simply calling my wife during the day for even 10 minutes and just checking in, just having a quick conversation, just to lessen or to have some noise, have something to talk, have someone to talk with. I had a group chat with several of my really close friends. What are some things that you all did to help you mentally this summer, or I guess this past semester, and things that you might do this upcoming school year?
Well, this past semester, well, I think I'm different. So unlike you and Evan, I don't think I'm an extrovert. I actually think I thrive like by myself. Like if I could just lock myself in a room for multiple hours and just read something 1,000 times or make note cards, that's where I thrive. So I mean, the fact that I didn't get to see you guys in person, sure I was sad, but like it didn't. I don't think it affected my mental health. Actually, I think I was kind of benefited because I feel like the odds of me being cold called decreased. So like I just had less stress revolving around that. Whenever I get cold called, I get like these huge like anxiety attacks. I don't know why. Even if I'm like sweating, my heart's pounding out of my chest. So yeah, not having those was very beneficial for me.
And you know the information. I feel the same way. I'll never forget the first time I got cold called on in law school, and I thought I was gonna just die. And I knew the information too. I remember I spat out some stupid answer that wasn't it, and I just felt so embarrassed. Cold
And
calling is
what's crazy about that, Paul, is like 2 years later, I still get the same feeling, and I know it's gonna happen. I'm like, this is the day I'm gonna get called on. I'm 100% prepared, and I still feel that way. But
yeah.
yeah.
It's not a ton of fun. There's people that thrive with cold calls. I am not one of those people, for sure. Evan, what are some things that you did?
Yeah, so as much as I'm an extrovert and as much as I miss being around people, like I mentioned before, I don't really get much work done when I'm around people. So I have to I knew coming into law school, I had to tell myself, okay, you're not there to make friends. You're not there to make friends, which I've made friends, not to say I haven't, but that wasn't like the main goal. And that's easily my default. Like it's subconscious. I don't even have to think about it. And so I kind of have had to be sort of more secluded a lot of times, even at the school, to just make sure I get work done, especially because with kids, like having to go pick them up at a certain time every day, it wasn't like I could be like, well, I have a lot of extra work that I need to do, so I need to stay here till 7. I've done that because my wife is gracious and has, handled the kids for me a few times or several times, but it's just not something I can do all the time. So I say all that to say that something strange with being at home has created a little bit more of a routine, especially even when we were in Wisconsin, where I felt like I was working pretty much 7 to 5 and then I was done. And I would kind of hang out with my in-laws, after we got kids to bed, which takes forever, as anybody that's ever put kids to bed knows. And that's incredibly exhausting. And so more exhausting than the 9 hours of work I put in during the day. So hanging out with them and just talking or having a drink with them or whatever, just kind of to relax, watching some show that my father-in-law wanted to watch or whatever. That was really helpful for me in that kind of routine where I was like kind of at 5, I was kind of done for the day. And it's been a little bit more difficult being home because I actually have a lot more responsibility, like helping with things around the house and stuff like that. But I've still been able to kind of have that same sort of routine, which I think has been really helpful. I don't feel like I'm really bad sometimes about staying up late when I'm not really going to get anything done. I think I'm going to get all this work done because kids are asleep, my wife's asleep. There's no other responsibilities for me to do at 11 o'clock at night. So I'm going to get all this work done. And then I'm just way too tired. And then I just stay up. So that's just me being a little transparent. But I haven't done that nearly as much because I feel like because so much is cut out of the day that isn't sort of wasted time, like me driving to the school and driving home, and some of that transitional time is gone. So there's a lot less where I feel like I can focus for 6 to 7 hours at least, and really get work done. So, and I'll say this with everything that I've said or anybody said, but obviously all this is just advice that people can take, and take pieces that work for you, because it's law school in general is an emotionally and mentally taxing thing, probably one of the most that I've ever experienced, or definitely the most I've ever experienced. And so that is why I say that so much of the online stuff has actually been helpful for me, but I know that that's not necessarily the case for everybody. So
thank you. Emma?
So I think that I'm a lot more like Malik than you, Paul and Evan. I'm like, I don't like to study with people. I like to just sit by myself and get my work done. So in some ways, this was fine for me in terms of, I feel like at law school, at the actual building, I didn't socialize a whole lot anyway, because I just, outside of class, I was like, I'm here to do my work. So in that sense, I don't think it was super taxing on my mental health. I kept up with my friends. We would text and video chat and, keep up. I think for me, just being out of my routine was really hard. I like my routine, and I like getting up and driving downtown and just having that sort of that day and knowing I don't know, I just like that routine. So that was hard for me. And then also just being in like one spot all day instead of getting to move from room to room or like get up and walk around. I don't know. I just felt like I was like chained to my desk a little bit in the same room all day. And so for me, it was really helpful. Like at lunch, I would take like a longer lunch break, and I would like go to the kitchen and like make lunch and sit, with my husband and eat it and just like try to break up the day. Or go outside or sit on the porch or something, just to sort of feel refreshed. So I think that knowing when to take a break, especially if you're in the same room all day or at the same spot, can be really helpful. So I would definitely, encourage recognizing when you need a little break, because it can get old.
I appreciate all what you all just said, and I hope for you incoming 1Ls that are watching this, you realize, we've got 3 people here that all have said very similar things, but also very different things, because again, and as Evan just mentioned, it's emotional and taxing on you, but it's different for everybody. You take pieces of what is going to work for you, and this is going to be one of the most personalized experiences you'll ever go through in your lives. And I mean, you just heard from Emma, when I appreciate what you just mentioned about how you found things. So for instance, you went to the kitchen and had lunch and you sat down with your husband. For me, when I was working from home this summer, something that I would do is I would get up and I'd go to my kitchen and I'd drink my coffee as if I was going to like the break room at work, just because I had to like pretend that like I was not sitting in the same place. And even doing that for 5 minutes to me was such a release, because it was breaking up the day and getting out of this chair, getting out of this room, and really knowing that I'm not stuck in the same place. And there are other things that you can do. So I appreciate that. The last question we have, and then we're going to wrap up. If you all have just one piece of advice going forward, and we're thinking specifically now about the 1Ls and the idea of being in class for a week and then being out of class for a week, and going to online learning, thinking about that hybrid switch up and what that's going to potentially look like for those 1Ls, what is one piece of advice that you would give to them to make sure that transition, that experience is as seamless as it can be for them? So Malik, again, we'll start with you and we'll go through everyone.
This was a really tough question for me, because I don't know how that's going to look with the 1 week on, 1 week off. But if I had to give one just piece of advice, I would just say try to be as organized as possible. For me, I have both a handwritten planner and I use Google Calendars, thanks to Evan. Evan put me on last semester. But yeah, so I just handwrite everything I have to do, and I also set alerts on Google Calendar. So even if I were to forget something an hour before it happens, my phone will give me an alert, and I'm like, oh, I do have that Zoom meeting with Paul and Evan at 12 p.m. Let me get ready for that in an hour. So I just try to be as organized as you can, so nothing catches you off guard, whether that's planning out your semester a month in advance or the entire semester ahead of time, just so you can do things 2 weeks early if you need to, because you know you're going to be online that week, and maybe you have to go see a grandparent or something. Just take the time out. It's hard, but take the time out to detail everything so that you can be as organized and prepared as possible.
Awesome. Thank you. Evan?
Yeah, I'll really echo the organization, especially with the transition. I'm not naturally a very organized person. I think I don't know. I think I'm just a flighty person, just naturally or something. But anyway, that's why like Malik mentioned, the calendars are incredibly helpful for me, because one, it allows me to put things in my calendar, and if I forget to tell my wife about it, she gets the alerts too, so she knows like, okay, he's doing this right now, or he's got this meeting coming up, and especially stuff when it's like she's done with work and is going to have the kids on her own. But just lots of those kind of things help. And with the transition of being at the school and then being at home, my mind just does a switch when I'm at home. And so it's really easy for me to forget to do stuff if it's not in the calendar. So when I get stuff, an email or whatever, I put it in like 3 places. I put it in the calendars that I have through Google and through my MacBook. And then I also put it in, I might put it in a reminder if it's really important on my phone with an alert, which I know the calendar does that too. And then I also write it down when the week comes. So I'll try to, that's something I've been doing actually more that since being at home has happened, that I'll kind of like, okay, I have this big picture calendar, but what do I need to do like today and this week? Or maybe honestly, I've kind of have a notepad where I'll just do like, what's the next 3 days look like? And how do I need to handle, how do I need to break that up? Because I'm not naturally really good at like doing things consistently over several days. I like to tackle like things all at once. And so my mind will go to that. And if I don't write it out, then I'll try to do it all on Monday when it's like, okay, this is all going to take 3 weeks. I really need to, break it up between those 3 weeks or whatever. But so that organization is really big. And then the biggest thing, like I kind of already mentioned, is find out what works for you and know yourself and be really honest with yourself. I think that was the best advice I had before coming to law school. And for me, being a teacher beforehand, one, made me more organized, but it also helped me understand how I learn, as funny as that is, since I was the one supposed to be teaching. But I figured out so much about myself and what I was good at and what I wasn't good at and where I needed to create, kind of scaffolds for myself and places where I knew, okay, I won't need as much support in this area. And so I think just be honest, and by being honest with yourself also means not comparing with what everybody else might be doing or what you perceive everybody else is doing. Because the reality is everybody has struggles. Everybody's not killing it 24 hours of the day. Like we're all like battling procrastination and battling going and speaking, spending an hour talking to a spouse or a friend or a roommate or whatever. So really find out, obviously you don't want to do that often, but where it cuts into being productive, but just know that like, you got to find out what works for you and taking the pieces that are helpful, like Malik, using the calendar, somebody shared that with me. That's been incredibly helpful. So at the same time, never be afraid to kind of reevaluate and be like, okay, this isn't really working for me. It works for all these other people I know, but it just doesn't work for me. I don't have to do that just because other people do it. I need to find out what works for me so I can, reach the outcome that I'm looking for. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Emma?
So again, I think a routine is really helpful. And I think this is true whether you're online or not, but especially being online, like planning out your time and knowing that I'm going to spend like from this time to this time working. I know like this summer working from home, I had set hours, I worked from 9 to 4 every day. And that was really helpful for me because it gave me that sense of like separation between what was going on at home, even though I was at home, and like my work. So I think for the times when you're not actually in person, that having some sort of routine would be helpful, just to keep you on track. And then the other thing I would say is it's going to be weird having a little less face time, I think, with your professors. You can't just, if you're having an online class, it's harder to sort of just ask a question or have a conversation after class or in the hall, or, it's just different. So I would say like, don't be afraid to reach out to them via email, or, even just to say like, hey, I really enjoyed your class today, or, I have a follow-up question about this, because just being remote is going to change that dynamic. And that's something I wish I had done more of, really. But I think that that's something that can be a little more intimidating when you can't just kind of casually bump into them at the law school and strike up a conversation. So I would say definitely, don't be afraid to reach out to them too. So, and then overall, like this is true no matter whether you're remote or in person, don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. Like what Evan said, there were so many times when I would be like, am I doing enough work? Am I spending enough time? Am I doing this wrong? And if if you're feeling good about, if you're grasping the classes and you feel good about where you are, then do what works for you, and just don't worry about everybody else. And it's hard, but I think that's a really good piece of advice.
I think,
Paul,
right.
let me add one more thing. Kind of just piggybacking off of what they said about do what works. I haven't heard anyone say like, do what makes you happy as well. Like Paul mentioned in the beginning, I enjoy golfing. I this summer I golf as much as possible, even with like the social distance order. Whenever they figured out how we were going to be able to golf socially distanced, I immediately took advantage of that. So I golf all the time, whether it's just hitting balls. I still watch movies, just be able to separate what you love, your personal life from school, because it's going to be a big part of happiness and success in law school.
I think, right there, we go around this, and you've got Malik starting out with, making sure that organization is going to be key. And that'd be a key regardless, and that's a typical law school, but especially if you're going to be in law school and then out remotely, organization, one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself. And then Evan going on with, a continued idea, but not just that, but finding what works for you and how that schedule is going to impact you and do what works for you. And then Emma, I love that, the idea that you need to remember it's okay to reach out, and it's okay to have those conversations, especially reaching out to your professors, reaching out to your friends. Make sure that you have those conversations still. I think one of the most important parts of law school is the interaction that you have with others, because for me, it's a great learning experience. And whether that be talking with friends or going to the faculty wing to ask a professor, look, I don't get this. Can you help me a little bit more? And I think our professors did a great job with remote learning of saying, look, I've got remote office hours. Hop on the Zoom link, email me. You can still have those conversations. And Malik, like you just touched on again, and that's one of the things that I would harp on heavily is take advantage of the season of life that we're in, and know that, yes, it may be chaotic and there may be a lot of shifting things, but you can also find the time to still do the things that you want to do and that you need to do for your own mental well-being. And for me and my wife, we wake up every morning at 5:30 and we go work out together for an hour. Now that sounds terrible for some people, but that's a special thing that for us, for 1 hour every morning, that's our time, and no one can take that from us. And it really gets my day going on the right foot, because I knew that no matter what's going on at school that day, I got my workout in with my wife, and no one can take that from me. And at night we have dinner together and we rotate who makes dinner. And so it's another thing, no one can take that from me no matter what's going on in school. And so I think finding those hobbies, those personal things you enjoy, and continuing to pour into those is incredibly important. So thank you all so very much. I think that this video has been truly beneficial. I hope that if you are an incoming student, a 1L, that you're watching this video, that you will take these pieces of advice, that you'll implement them to the best that you can. You'll find what works for you, find what doesn't work for you. Don't be afraid to have those honest conversations with yourself and with others about that. I want to thank Malik, Evan, and Emma one more time. You all are incredible students. We love and appreciate you and the admissions office for what you do and how much you care about this incoming class by taking an hour out of your day to give this advice. So thank you for that. We'll be going ahead and signing off now. Any incoming 1Ls, if you have any other questions, please just contact the Office of Admissions. We're here for you, and we can put you in touch with whoever you need to be in touch with in order to make sure that you get your 1L year started off right. So thank you all. We're going to go ahead and stop the video now. Hope you all have a blessed rest of your day. Y'all take care. See ya.